So, Odyssey of the Dragonlords. They have completed their third trial, or labor, I guess if we're going with Greek myths. They had to venture to the necropolis of Telemach and go into the tomb of Xander, the first Dragonlord. Um, a title that simply meant greatest or best amongst the Dragonlords. And then they had to get his arms and armor. So, the default map for the Tomb of Xander was kind of cool, I guess. But this incredible map was that much cooler. So I definitely had to use this, especially with Roll20 dynamic lighting. And I streamed building this map and redesigning the adventure. There was a narrative that I was trying to explore that was different than the published adventure, that tied things more to my characters, their purpose, and one of the characters being a vanished one. As I was building this dungeon, I thought a lot about my players and what my players would do. And as I was building it, I knew that they were going to get frustrated and start smashing through the walls. So, um, knowing that, I built the dungeon with many small pieces of dynamic lighting that I could easily remove, manipulate, and change to represent that they were smashing their way through the maze. When my players realized that I was ready for them to do this, there was definitely this sort of moment where they felt like, I think, appreciated, right? That that I knew them well enough that I built the map to prepare for that, which I thought was really cool. And then it also gave me a chance to use the bad Guys Lair action, which allowed him to recreate walls or create new walls as needed, which was super cool. So it ended up a very unique, frustrating, and terrifying dungeon encounter for them, to be sure. Looking at it from a distance, though, this is big. This is a big labyrinth, right? And there was a lot of things to explore, a lot of things they could have found. But their first encounter with the boss, which was this powerful modified Minotaur boss, it was so scary and intense for them that they were just drained, right? They were just drained by it. And I knew, because I play with them a lot and I run a lot of games, I could tell, if I keep doing this, they're not going to have a good time. So when they made it to the center of the maze, where the false tomb was, and they fought the false tomb guardian, they were really spent at that point, and they're debating if they could risk trying to get to the exit and rest outside and all that. And that is when I knew that I needed to kind of force an outcome for this dungeon one way or the other. Now, I had plenty of content. I mean, plenty of content. So much to explore, so much to do. Traps and guardians and puzzles and riddles and all that. But, you have to pay attention to your players, because your players are your actors, they're your audience, they're everything, right? They're what the game's about. It's about the players. And listening and intuiting and communicating, right? I could tell that they were done, right? They had fun, but they were worn out. Rather than pressing the issue, rather than being upset, I worked so hard on this maze and you only did a little bit of it and you're gonna leave and all that, I focused on the positives, that they had a series of really cool encounters. They had a little mid-boss fight here. They had a boss fight. Now I could kind of push the issue. So I presented the boss, And the boss, because he was tied to the backstory of one of the characters, there was an opportunity there, essentially, diplomacy or death, right? So if they could role play, because I wasn't looking for persuasion checks, I was looking for role playing. If they could role play well enough, that would be it. They'd win the dungeon. If they, really screwed the pooch, as it were, on the role playing, said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, attacked him, right? He was prepared to fight it out. And there in the middle of the maze, I would not have had him run away. I would have had him, essentially through that failed diplomacy, be pushed past the point of using like hit and run tactics, and he just would have fought them to the death. And then what would that have done? They'd still have to explore the rest of the dungeon. So more than likely, when he died, I would have like removed the walls and had a path lead right to the end, just because again, the players were absolutely done with exploring Labyrinth, and pushing it any further would have just taken all the fun out of the encounter. As it was, the role playing, as usual, was absolutely phenomenal, and it was just charged with like emotion and backstory and plot. And in the end, they turned a foe into a friend, very My Little Pony, I guess, and were able to achieve their goals without a throwdown, knockdown, half the party dies, super boss fight. And sometimes that's better, you know? So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as always, communication, adaptability, so important. Being able to walk away from a lot of your prep in favor of something cooler or better for the story and for the players, so important. So, yet another lesson, another great opportunity to reinforce and learn about being adaptable, being willing to walk away from your cool boss fight, from your crazy cool labyrinth dungeon, in favor of a fun and exciting and dramatic like role-playing session instead. I was very happy with how it turned out. So yeah, that's all I got for this video. Hopefully some of this was helpful to you. And I guess I will see you next time.